Good evening. I am Meg Scott Johnson, president of our local League of Women Voters, Hill Country, and I am moderator of this forum this evening with the candidates running for place 3 and then at 7 p.m. tonight, place 4 in our upcoming May 7th city election. Our league is in partnership with the Schreiner University Student Government Association in hosting these 2 forums tonight. Why do we volunteer and do this? The League of Women Voters is a non-partisan political organization. Our mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. A word about being nonpartisan. This means that as an organization, the League of Women Voters does not support any political party or candidate. While members are encouraged to become informed and involved in local and national politics, the only person who speaks for the League as an organization is the president. That's on the local level, the state level, and then the national level. One member of our local league has taken a position of public support in the mayoral contest in this election. In January, she notified me of this, her personal decision, and that, of course, she would not be moderating any more mayoral candidate forum. So since January, I have known that I would be moderating this forum. I have made that quite clear to any candidate who asked. Any assumptions to the contrary are just that, assumptions. Because the league is nonpartisan, in a league forum, there must be at least 2 candidates for the same office. So since 2 candidates for the office of mayor were not available, one was not available, we will not have that forum tonight. Now, we have some housekeeping. Please silence your cell phones. Do not record or photograph any of this. The media may audio record. We do have a videographer here, a league member and his crew, and the video will be available on our website, and we will get it to the print media in a couple of days. So it will be available to all. The restrooms are out the door and across the hallway, and I am going to be taking the questions at the back so that the candidates will be looking that way and not over to the side at the moderator. So that's why I'm doing introductions here and I will move there. Our 3 candidates for place 3 have drawn numbers, 1, 2, and 3, and they ended up in alphabetical order. And they are Mr. George Baruti, Mr. Gary Stork, and Mr. Vincent Vogel, and you go by Vince? Vogel. Okay. You have cards and pencils. If you need more cards, raise your hand and league members will bring you blank cards. Write your questions to the candidates, not to a one candidate. Hold up your hand, pass it to the side aisles, and the league members will gather them, take them back to our 2 screeners, Bunny Bond and Rhonda Wiley-Jones. They screen them for readability, legible, and appropriateness, and then bring them to me. And I will ask the questions, we will rotate their answers, who answers. Each candidate has 2 minutes for an opening statement, then 1 minute each to answer the question, and at the closing, they have 1 minute for a closing statement. Our timer, who's sitting here, is League member Bill Nation. So let's get on with this. Mr. Baruti, time for you to start with your opening statement.
Hi, my name is George Baruti, and I'm running for City Council. And part of the reasons I'm trying to run, well, I guess start with a little background. Basically, I'm not originally from Kerrville. I got here in 2002 for the sole purpose of marrying my wife, Juanita. And I grew up in the DC area and went to UT in Austin, and eventually, like I say, got here in 2002. I've been heavily involved in the Little League in town, which is kind of what got me involved in this indirectly, through basically working with my son, who's now 21. I worked with him through the Little League and then just carried on afterwards because it's kind of something I'm passionate about, both baseball and the youth. So as I decided to run, the main focus of what I'm trying to do is get a little more interaction with the voting public in the process, not just getting to show up at city council meetings, but actually go out to them and get more input from them. So when we make the decisions that we make, we actually are doing it as the will of the people. And heavily involved, heavy decision-making ability in the debt issuing process, which in recent times has been, I guess, without the vote of the people. I'd like to see any debt that's borrowed be through a referendum vote, except for a case of emergency, which we haven't really been having. So it's more just get a referendum on there, both the financing and the project itself. I'd like to see that vetted by the people a little more than just the 5 people on the council. And if we could just get that process changed and where we're focusing back to the people, carrying the conversation back and forth between the people and the city government, that would be my main goal. Thanks.
Mr. Stork.
Hi, my name is Gary Stork. I am currently sitting on City Council. I appreciate and know what an honor it is to serve you for the last 2 years, and I'm asking for another 2 years to serve you. I've been married to my best friend for 36 years next week, and we have 2 beautiful adult children who live out of state. They're suffering for that. And I went into the Air Force right after high school, so I spent 4 years there. Not a career to brag about. I was just enlisted, trying to get a start, and finished my my undergraduate degree from Austin Graduate School of Theology. I got my MBA from Oklahoma Christian University, where I learned how to do case studies and how to build business plans and visions and mission statements and stuff like that. So I am excited about my education and how it's helped me to make good decisions for Kerrville. I have 3 basic pillars that I feel are most important for Kerrville. I feel like we need to be a business-friendly community. We need to welcome businesses in. We need to keep barriers down so that it's easier to get into town and to start a business and to run a business. I'm also for a high quality of life. I love our new river trail. I love our new splash pads. The park just is beautiful, and there's never a day that I don't see it fully used. So I really appreciate the work that all of Kerrville has done for that. But we can't have those 2 if we don't have a reliable and redundant infrastructure. If we don't have safe water, if we don't haul the sewage away, then we can't do the other things. So if we're not investing in our infrastructure, then we can't do the other 2. And I'm asking for your vote on May 7th. Thank you.
Mr. Vogel.
Hello, I'm Vincent Vogel. I was born and raised in Kerrville, Texas. Graduated from Tybee High School in 2006. I'm currently working for a family surveying firm in Vocal Land Surveying here. I'm getting married this summer to Crystal, is my fiance right now, and we're planning on raising our family here in Kerrville. And it's been a dream of mine as I've gone off and ventured out into the country, but I've always come back to Kerrville. It's my home. My grandfather was city manager in the 1960s, and my father right now is a county surveyor. I'd like to see Kerrville become greater and opening up to growth and businesses coming to Kerrville, and maybe relax our ordinances, make people have a little more freedom in our city. I've learned as I'm running for city council that Kerrville has missed out on a few things, and I don't want to miss out on anything like some businesses that could be here that are not. I don't have much experience. Some of you say it's a disadvantage. I see it as an advantage. I'm open. I'm willing to hear everybody. I've heard some good things from people in the city. Some ideas are a little far-fetched, but I'm willing to sit down and listen to you and see what you'd like to see the city do and what direction y'all want it to go. I'd love to communicate with the people. I've had a really good time running for City Council Place 3, and I appreciate y'all for having us here.
Thank you.
Okay, we will start with Mr. Baruti with
Our first question.
what would be
Your number one priority of an issue you are researching that you would like to improve in the city of Kerrville. What would be your number one priority?
Okay. Basically, the main issue that is driving me right now is our debt situation. It's not just the debt, though. It's the revenue that backs the debt that we've got to address. If we're going to keep dealing with where we're taking on these projects, they're all decent projects on their face. We're going to have to pay for them. And whether it's paid for long-term, short-term, whatever, we have to explain to the people what it is we're doing and why we're doing it now. And if we do that, then basically it's on the people's will that these things are being done, and at which point it's no longer the ownership of just the council, it's the ownership of the people at large, and that's the main thing I'd like to see. I'd like to see, as they talked about, if we're going to address the debt, we're going to have to address the revenue side of it. So we're going to have to deal with bringing businesses here that are either paying for the debt, or we're going to have to explain the hard questions to the people of what services we're going to cut in order to pay for that debt.
Thank you. Mr. Stork.
My top priorities are infrastructure. Just a few short years ago, we fell almost $100 million behind in keeping our infrastructure sound and reliable. If we don't have safe water, then the rest is irrelevant. If we don't have a way to haul the sewage off to the treatment plants, the rest is we don't need to worry about anything beyond those two. But since the last 10 years, we've rebuilt the infrastructure, and we're working on another water project now. The effluent water project is important for the future of Kerrville. This first phase will help provide more potable water with the second phase. And having reliable water is job one for me in Kerrville.
Thank you. Mr. Vokel, if you need me
to repeat a question.
Please.
Okay.
Mr. Vokel, what would be your number one priority of an issue that you are researching that you would work to improve for the city?
Right now, I'd probably be representing the people of Kerrville. I feel that our council is not doing a great job of that. The issue was the ballparks. I don't think we involved the public enough in that issue. Maybe the effluent water pond. We had an ad hoc committee, and we voted on the effluent water pond, and then the ad hoc committee came and said what they had thought about it afterwards. I think we should have done the process a little differently on that.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay. Question
2, we begin.
Mr. Stork.
What responsibilities do you view as unique to city council members? How does this impact the way in which you serve as a public servant? What responsibilities do you view as unique to city council members?
When I was first elected, the city secretary took me aside and she says, "You have fewer rights now." And I went, "No, there's no way." And she explained to me that I do have fewer rights. The newspapers have my cell phone numbers and they're not afraid to use them. And when there's a public forum being conducted, as holding an elected position, I have no choice but to show up. That's my responsibility. It's not for me to say that I can turn you down. The League of Women Voters have done all of this work, and so I don't have a right over the exclusive right over my schedule. I don't have the right with complete absolute privacy. I answer the phone every time somebody from the newspaper calls or a friend or neighbor in Kerrville calls. I work directly for the citizens of Kerrville, not the citizens of the county. I want to be very specific. I work for the citizens of Kerrville.
Mr. Vogel,
Go ahead, I'm sorry. You repeated.
what responsibilities do you view as unique to city council members? How does this impact the way in which you serve as a public servant?
I think the unique part about it would be that you're not necessarily representing your friends or family or anybody close to you. You really have to go out to the community, the working class, the people that are retired, people that are old, people that are young, people that are rich, people that are poor. You have to represent everybody. You have to get out there and actually know what they want. Something my grandfather always told me is that if you want to catch a bird, you got to put salt on its tail. That means if you're close enough to salt the tail, you're close enough to catch the bird. We don't know what the people of Kerrville want unless we actually get out there to them.
Thank you. Mr. Baruti.
Yeah, the unique responsibility to me is basically that we have one responsibility, and it's just to be the conduit between the people and the staff. I don't think at these forums we get asked our own opinions about these things, and while our opinions matter, it's not my opinion that really is what I'm representing. It's the opinion of the people. If I feel like it's the people need to be led a certain way, it's on me to I'm responsible to explain to them why it is that I think it should be a certain way. And unless I get that consensus from the people, then I can't do that. I can't move forward with my own idea. So the responsibility that's special to the city council is we get an opportunity to lead, but we don't get an opportunity to act until we actually have the documented backing of the people.
Thank you. Here's our next question, and it will begin with Mr. Vogel. Currently, the city of Kerrville is exploring the possibility of locating workforce housing on a parcel of land located at 300 Peterson Farm Road. Given that there are no public schools, shopping, or free parks close by, do you feel this is an appropriate location for what could be potential young families? Please explain why you feel whichever way you feel.
Right now, with where we are in Kerrville, I don't believe that's the best option to do the workforce housing. I think there's places closer in the city. One of them is right across from Tybee High School, and it's right down the street from, it's on Olympic Drive at the end of it, right there by Tom Daniels. I think that's a great place to look into. It's got infrastructure. I think maybe we got that property, that 80-something acres out there by the airport. Maybe we can look into doing something with the dirt we have out there. I know we're paying money on the dump right now that we're not using. Maybe we can use that dirt to cover our dump so we can get back to using that. There's options that are out there. I'd like to be able to explore those, but yes, I would like to look into other properties for the workforce housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baruti.
Similar to Vince, I don't disagree that the idea of having some sort of housing project that's partnered with the city and some developer is I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. I just believe that the location of where this is being done is something to be looked at. Ideally, you're not going to expand your city by jumping gaps and putting out there, because your infrastructure is going to have to connect that, and there's going to be a cost involved, an inefficient cost involved in connecting to that. And while there's going to be employers out there that some of those people are going to be going to, and they'll be closer to it, not all those people are going to work at, say, James Avery. So I just ideally think that we should look at other pieces of land that might be closer in, keep the infrastructure tighter, and grow from within.
Thank you. Mr. Stork?
There are a few factories out there that will need workforce housing. That's public property that we don't have planned long-term. We have other city property that is planned for our municipal courts, our city jail, etc. And that is in the long-term plans. I'm more for a workforce housing that is provided by private enterprise, and maybe we could use that property that's city-owned that is not planned in a long-term fashion as an incentive to bring private enterprise here and ask them to develop workforce housing. Big difference between workforce housing and affordable housing. These would be houses that were specifically for people who are employed. We want people who are employed in these workforce houses.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to our next question, and that comes back to Mr. Baruti. Please explain and describe the water project that takes over the soccer fields. What is its primary purpose?
I don't know that I'm close enough to the details to tell you what its primary goal purpose was, but the purpose of it as it's stated to us is that it's going to be taking our wastewater and turning it into irrigation water. Instead of throwing it back into the river, we're going to try and utilize that water in a form of irrigation water. I assume this question is more or less asking what I see as the problems or the benefits of it, but the problems that I see for it are we're basically taxing the general public for use by a small number of customers in the city, and it's kind of a reverse taxation situation going on there. And our ad hoc committee actually described the project as being worthless unless it was taking us to potable water, which unfortunately it's not. We may get there, but we don't have a plan to get there right now, so it's really a pipe dream.
Thank you. Mr.
Stork?
The 105 million gallon affluent water project, which will be close to where the current soccer fields are now, is phase one. We have to use our credits to pull water out of the river, out of the aquifer, out of any source from Texas. So when we put water, we treat it to the quality of the river and return that water back to the river. Texas does not give us those credits back. So if we want to plan long-term, if we want to think 30 years down the road or 75 years down the road, we have to plan a source of reliable water. By using the affluent water first for irrigations, and you have to have a pond before you can treat it again to make it potable water. So without a first pond for phase one, you can't have a second phase, which will be the bigger pond, which will hold potable water, which we could use for drinking, which secures Kerrville for the next 75 years.
Thank you. Mr. Buckle?
Please repeat it again, I'm sorry.
Yes. Please explain and describe the water project that takes over the soccer fields. What is its primary purpose?
My understanding of the purpose of this project is that it's going to take our sewer water that we're putting back into the river after we treat it, and we're going to pump it to these like golf courses and baseball fields so they can use it without using potable water from the city. Right now, I'm not sure the use justifies the cost. This is something that I'd like to look into in the future, but right now I'm not real sure about the use justifying the cost.
Thank you. We're moving to our next question, and this will begin with Mr. Stork. How would you improve the communication with the Kerr County Commissioners Court to support services to citizens, like the library and EMS?
I like this question, thank you. I asked for a meeting with Mr. Buster, and he said he didn't have time for me. He gets paid $50,000 plus to hold that position. I get paid zero. I was making time to meet with him. So I appreciate the Commissioners Court. I'm looking forward to the new formation of the Commissioners Court. I think the Commissioners Court needs to be reminded that the citizens of Kerrville are also citizens of the county. The citizens of Kerrville pay county taxes. The county collects sales taxes. If you've ever bought a cell phone, you'll see a county sales tax on that cell phone. The Commissioners Court needs to remember that the city is not their personal bank. The county needs to remember that the city is part of the county and that they're responsible to us as well as the rest of the county residents.
Thank you. Mr. Vogel.
I'd like to use my previous relationships with the county commissioners to be able to sit down and talk with them and make ends meet. I know a few of them. My father, like I said earlier, is a county surveyor. I have ties with the county. They're all good people. I've heard things back and forth about the city and county lately. There's no reason that we can't sit down and come with an agreement and get things done the correct way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baruti.
Well, for starters, I would start by not being an antagonistic city council, and I would hope that the county commissioners would do the same in return. And frankly, I've had dealings from my role in Little League with the county commissioners that didn't go so well, and in the last couple of years, it's actually been smoothed over to where I would see them as an asset to me and the Little League. So, and basically it's like two of the commissioners right now that I have a decent personal relationship with. I would assume that I could build on that as opposed to push them away or draw lines in the sand. And it's that type of attitude, I think, that gets you a long ways. But it's not just the city that's the problem, obviously. I mean, you got to get both sides to be kind of meeting halfway, and I believe that I'm capable of doing that. I think historically I have with the county commissioners currently.
Thank you. Our next question, we will begin with Mr. Vogel. How would you improve communications with citizens?
That's a good question. I guess I really have to get out and go to the public and maybe, I don't know the best answer for this, but somehow get to the people and talk to them. I feel that people, just from things that I've so far in my race, people have come up to me with some issues that I wouldn't feel comfortable asking people on council right now. And they obviously feel comfortable enough to ask these questions. And like I said, I'm open ear. I'm willing to hear things. My opinion is open to change. I'm not set on anything. And just bring me your ideas and we'll sit down and talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baruti.
This was actually fairly simple. We spend a lot of time going to the public during the campaign. I've said this before. I don't understand why that has to stop. It truly is a volunteer position, so we're not getting paid to do it. But at the same time, I'm not going to promise I knock on as many doors if I was on council as I am right now. But I would continue to knock on doors. I would continue to ask people questions about the issues. At the same time, when there's issues that come up in council and people speak up at the council meetings, rather than just tell them that we're glad that you spoke up, I actually would engage them in the conversation, in the dialogue, and truly allow them to vet the projects as we see it. We have to have more trust in the people that we serve to vote on the things that we're serving them with. I don't think that currently the council does that so well, where the people themselves are actually, it's almost like there's a contempt to hear the people speak.
Thank you.
This is a good question, and one that City Hall has recognized. We have 2 vacancies right now that are positions that we are considering changing the job description completely. I don't think that we educate the community as thoroughly as we should on each project, so that people who are motivated to disagree or to have discussions will actually come to City Council and address each of these issues. So we're working on a position, it's similar to an information officer or a PR department, depending on if you're in the military or private business, what you would name that position. But it's somebody who would have an educational responsibility to get the information out a little bit more thoroughly. We have great media that does a good job doing this, but not everybody takes the time to read these articles and to read the agenda items that are coming up. So hopefully we'll actually address this in an official manner.
Thank you. We're now to Mr. Baruti. In the last year, Kerrville citizens have lost an indoor pool, bowling alley, and are only able to use the track at Antler Stadium from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. weekdays. In our growing senior population, what are your ideas to invite families to help provide services? Or
Is that the question? That's the question.
what are your ideas about this?
Thanks for being real specific there. All right, so, no, basically, I think I understand the gist of the question, which is, what are we gonna do about backfilling the services that we're essentially targeting families that we're losing, and how are we gonna bring them back? As far as, the Antler Stadium thing, I tell you straight up, I don't really understand the problem. I mean, I don't understand why it's the way it is, but unfortunately, it's a KISD problem, and we don't have a lot of say in that. But I don't understand why an artificial turf stadium can't be open to the public all day long. But the bowling alley and the pool, that's going to be essentially a situation. All right. How about, okay. It's going to be about taking down the barriers that allow businesses to come here and produce these things. It's not something the government's going to produce, but I don't know what went into moving the Family Life Center or the Fitness Center to somewhere else and then installing a bank in its place, but I would hope that some sort of planning goes into that where we don't lose businesses that way.
Mr. Stork, would you like the question?
No, thank you. I think I've heard enough of that one. I like this question because it's an issue versus private business versus government. And I agree with George that this is not a government solution. We don't look for the city government to provide indoor extra bowling alleys, etc. That's private business. And that development is going to bring a lot more tax dollars when it's eventually laid out with the restaurants and the condos and all that stuff that's planned for that corner. But I do like the direction that our city's going. We're providing a couple of splash pads. We're providing more outdoor activities with the river trail. Our parks are getting better. We're providing a lot more opportunity for physical activity and families to do things together. I don't know if you've ever sat there by that splash pad in Louise Hayes Park, but you could spend all day watching little children scream and laugh and play. At least my wife and I could. So I think we're doing the right things with our park system, but I think it's up to the private business to provide the other things.
Thank you. Mr. Vogel.
I grew up going to the family sports center and bowling and enjoying the pools and having a good time there, and I was sad to see it leave. A lot of people thought it was an eyesore. I thought it was a lot of good times. I'd like to see the city looking to bring someone here like Main Event. They do a lot of that stuff. They have 12-lane bowling alleys. They got indoor laser tag, pool tables. I'd love to see something like that come to Kerrville. It's been a dream of mine since I was growing up. We didn't really have much here for the kids and families like that. And I'm not sure if it would qualify, but maybe we could look into using 4B money for something like that. And if we need some donations, say, look, $100, you get your name on a brick, and it's on the wall forever. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving to a question. We begin with Mr. Stork. Please explain your understanding of Kerrville sales tax rate, collection amount, and for what these revenues are used.
Sales taxes are, for the most part, flexible, if you will. You can, depending on how much money you have to spend, you're going to spend more money, and then you're going to collect more sales taxes. Our sales tax collections are way up. We're doing really well with sales taxes. And the way that we allocate them, a portion of those goes directly to the EIC, Economic Improvement Corporation, and they use those for more of the optional or quality of life projects. So as long as we buy local, like our campaign signs or whatever we're doing, all of our activities, as long as we're buying local, then we're providing more quality of life projects and more infrastructure. So we're able to do more for each other through those sales taxes. So I'm really proud of all you guys who buy local. Thanks.
Mr. Vogel?
Repeat it, please.
Whoops. Yes, you didn't do her phone. Do you need?
Yes, please.
Okay. Please explain your understanding of Kerrville sales tax rates, collection amount, and for what these revenues are used.
Sales tax rate, I think we're 8 cents to the dollar. I think there's part of that that's 4B money. I think that's a half-cent tax. I think we can use that towards infrastructure. I'm not real sure about that right now. I'm sorry. I'm not going to speak on that. But I would like to encourage visitors to come here. We have enough people here right now buying our own stuff. I'd like to encourage visitors to come here and to create revenue in that way, spending money at our stores. And that's all I got to say. Sorry.
Okay, now we are going to start.
I didn't get that question.
Hmm?
Right?
Oh, it's your time for that question. Yes, do you need it?
No,
Okay, you've got it.
I don't need the question again. Okay, so my understanding, the sales tax, basically what we get here locally is gonna be 2% of that, the sales that are done here. So of that, 0.5%, so 1/4 of it is the 4B money. The 4B money is the one that is essentially the quality of life and economic improvement. There can be a lot of debate on how that's going to work, but that allotment is set aside for them. The rest of it is our general fund admin, things like that. And that's the money that we need to get more of if we can. More retail money, more dollars coming in. Ideally, we're bringing our revenue in from people that don't actually have to live here. They leave their money here and then they go back. So that we can use their money to build the other things like the parks that we're talking about. So in my focus would be on not so much just retail, but just sales dollars. And like you said, if we're getting people to buy local, that's one thing. That's just ourselves funding ourselves. Ideally, we get people from outside spending that money here.
Thank you. Now we begin this question with Mr. Vogel.
And there-
Actually, 2 questions in this question. I think the first one is a yes/no. Are you for the Gateway Shopping Center by Gulf Coast Commercial?
Yes.
And the second part, okay, the second part is, are you pro 380 agreements to help bring businesses to Kerrville? Explain.
Yes, and I am pro 380 agreements. I talked to someone from the state, and they gave me a rundown of what it is in the city. They can make the agreement as attractive and beneficial as they would like. I think it would help bring some businesses here. I don't want to hurt any of our local businesses, but I think we can come up with an agreement to new businesses that looks attractive enough and it's going to be fair to everybody in our community. And I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baruti.
I don't know all the specifics of the Gateway Shopping Center to say one way or the other, but more or less, I'm for the idea, at least the latest iteration of the idea that I've heard, which is that they essentially would be getting a tax rebate or deferment, however you want to call it, for a time period to essentially prime the pump. In my view, that's a decent way of bringing dollars into the community. It's better than giving them cash money because it's money that we're giving them a portion of that was never here to start with. So in that sense, that seems like a win-win. The downside to it, of course, is that you have an issue of the local businesses that may or may not be in competition with it, and that would be a concern of mine that I believe could be addressed in any case. But that type of arrangement to bring business here, again, retail money that people are spending here, that we aren't actually having to serve those people. We're just bringing some jobs and we're using their money here to build our city. I think that's a good plan.
Thank you. Mr. Stork.
I am for using 4B and 380 dollars to bring primary jobs into Kerrville. I like that system. I like that program. I am very careful about the retailer's promise. Every retailer has a business plan. If I'm Coles and I want to come to Kerrville, nobody's going to stop me to come to Kerrville, but I'm going to have my qualifications for that. There's going to be 100 to 150,000 people, a median income of 50,000 per household is on average. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to buy a store and I'm going to set up shop. I'm not going to set up my biggest one, I'm going to set up my 55,000 square foot store. So no one's going to stop me if I'm Coles from coming to Kerrville. So using 380 taxes or 4B funds in the promise of getting a national chain, we're not going to stop a national chain from coming if we meet their new store site qualifications.
Thank you. We start now with Mr. Baruti. Am I right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Would you explain your understanding of the city building a jail?
I can do that real quickly because I'm not aware of them trying to build a jail, so I can't really speak to the topic. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a jail in place that someone's asking about, or if it's just whether they should build a jail. Can we ask the
It
question?
just says, explain your understanding of the city building a jail.
Okay. I don't know that I can answer that question. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Mr. Stork.
I don't know the last time you did jury duty for a municipal judge, but we're in a temporary metal building. We have an officer on duty, and he is there to guard. We have trials with criminals there. Eventually, we're going to need a real jail for the city. I understand right now, I may be incorrect on this, but we pay per day for the county jail. So we do need eventually, in our long-term plan, to have a city jail, but right now it's not on the books, it's not in the progress, but long-term we're going to have to think about it and find a place for it and build it. Ideally, it would be great to have the city headquarters, the municipal courts, and the city jail all in one building.
Thank you. Mr. Bokel?
I do not understand. I heard rumors that they're wanting to put it out by the 30 acres I was talking about earlier between the high school and Tom Daniels. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I don't understand why we need one. I think the county's about to build a huge jail. So I'm not real understanding on why the city needs its own jail. There's no reason, like I said earlier, that the county and the city can't sit down and work together and make these things come together. Thank you.
Thank you. We start now with Mr. Stork. Does the city of Kerrville have too much debt? Explain your answer, please.
No. Here's how it breaks down. We have about $55 million in debt. I think about a total of 7 or 9 is based on property taxes. The rest is based on utilities. For example, there's going to be $21 million on the water facility. So the debt is spread out over different corporations within the city. It's not too high. There's good debt, there's bad debt. If I buy a vacation home for me and my wife, she would love that, but that's bad debt because it's not making me any money. Good debt is where we're securing our future for Kerrville. If we're providing water for 75 years, that's good debt. What we had a few years ago was a city council so afraid of debt that we left our infrastructure to decay. And that's something that we want to avoid.
Thank you. Mr. Bokel?
Hard to say if it's too much or not. Maybe unnecessary debt is good. I'm not sure that we should be spending money in these areas such as the affluent pond right now, and maybe some unnecessary debt at the ballpark. I don't understand if we're still buying $2 million worth of dirt or not from ourselves, but I think we need to focus on our debt and get back on top.
Thank you. Mr. Baruti?
For the simple reason that when I knock on doors and ask people about the debt, they all have a problem with it. I would say that we have too much. There's a debate about how much debt there really is. If you're talking about how much we're going to pay back, it's more than $50 million. and it's the interest on it. So there's that aspect of it. The other part is as Mr. Stork pointed out, there's good debt and bad debt, and the bad debt would be the kind that doesn't bring you in a return on your investment. And we continue to spend the money on things that aren't returning on our investment. We're actually going to lose money on the ballparks. We're going to lose money on, we're actually flipping the tax plan on the water project, which isn't securing future water. It's actually just increasing the ability to water irrigation. And so I would say that we need to focus on it. We need to bring it down. And part of bringing it down is going to be bringing in revenue from somewhere. We have to bring more revenue. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut some of these services. We can't sustain the amount of debt that we're carrying without some sort of tax increases.
Thank you. We start this question with Mr. Vogel. How would you like to foster better interaction between Schreiner University, a quickly growing establishment of higher learning, and the city of Kerrville?
I'm not sure about this one. I just say maybe open up our city to Schreiner more. Maybe let the kids come out and get involved in what's going on in the city. I'm not real sure. I'm not really involved in Schreiner University right now. But I'd encourage them to get out and try to make a difference in the city. Try to get involved in the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baruti?
I'm not aware that there's a big problem here, so I guess the main thing would be to just, as Vincent said, we basically have some interaction with the Schreiner University as our higher education university. It's here in town. It'd be nice if there was a sort of a marketing partnership, if you will, that, you know, we've got this university. Yes, it's a private university, but it is here, and it is somewhere for our Tybee students to actually move on to, and they don't have to leave home. And so there should be some more of a partnership, if you will, like I say, in the marketing department, where you can get both of them kind of going in the same places. Most cities that have a university have some sort of a tie-in with that university, as not necessarily to draw in other students as much as to say this is the sort of progressive sort of town we have, where we actually have the higher education.
Mr. Stork?
I wish the city could take credit for this university. President Summerlin has done a great job, and our town is in debt to the Summerlins for this facility coming so far in such a short time. I wish the city could take credit for all the students who volunteer at community service and infusion and volunteer twice a year to help all of our town. If it's cleaning up a highway or cleaning up a neighbor's house. I wish the city could take credit for all the youthful energy that comes from this great university. I wish the city could take credit for the university accepting single moms out of Medina Children's Home. I wish the city could take credit for this university. This university is reaching out to the community. This university is a great asset to this community. And I'm just so proud that we have this great university in our lovely little town.
Thank you. We now have this question, starting with Mr. Baruti. Some citizens are concerned that an enormous amount of EIC money goes for jobs for illegal aliens. Will you monitor that and see that we are bringing in manufacturing and not using the money for projects that should be funded from the General Revenue Fund?
Okay. First part of that, not really sure that it's the city's role to play there on the EIC funding going to illegal aliens. I mean, as far as that goes, nobody actually is sitting here saying that we want people to be breaking the law to be here. So I'm not sure how you would even track that down as a city. That's a pass it on type of role, I believe, to the federal government on that, and the employment rules as far as who's actually doing the employment. I'm not sure about the EIC money going directly to anybody, though. It's going to a business that I assume is going to jobs. So it ends up being the employer's duty there. And the other parts of the question?
Will you monitor that and see that we are bringing in manufacturing and not using the money for projects that should be funded from the general revenue fund?
Okay, that's the kind of tough thing too, because I mean, there's a task that's tied to the money that goes to EIC. So it's, as far as bringing in manufacturing jobs per se, I'm not going to sit here and say that it would only be manufacturing jobs that get EIC money. EIC money is determined essentially by EIC, who then gets approval from the city council, and in that sense, we'd be monitoring that. I'm not going to say determine one way or the other who the winners and losers would be up front from that money, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stork.
The EIC funds manufacturing jobs which provide primary jobs. A primary job is a job that will support a family. And one of these jobs was taken by a member of our church at Fox Tank. He's a very close friend of mine now. I guarantee you he's legal. The EIC won't spend money on manufacturing that would be the type of company that would hire illegals. So they go through a great vetting process. There's so many rules and regulations and so many aspects of spending 4B money on a business that there's no way that if you're taking 4B money that you would risk it by hiring illegal aliens.
Thank you. Mr. Vogel.
I am not aware that EIC money is going towards illegal aliens and jobs. I'm not really, if it's happening, I would monitor it. I just don't see it happening. If it is happening, please make all the city aware of it. Thank you.
Okay.
At this moment, I'm going to ask the place 4 candidates to meet with Richard Johnson, League member Richard Johnson, in the hallway so they can draw their positions at the table. Let's start with Mr. Baruti. From what we have heard, how would you break the cycle of lack of public interest in city events, elections, and activism among the citizens of Kerrville?
Okay, well, that's another one that basically goes back to the initial question about how I would keep communication open. I think if the communication is kept open, again with the I know it sounds crazy, but I expect once being elected to still continue to do some door-to-door knocking, not nearly as much as I'm doing now, but that I think generates the activism, the interest in it, because there's so many people you knock on the door and all they do is say, well, local government doesn't affect me. You explain to them a little bit how it does, and boom, now they're on board. So if we did more of that, then I believe we'd get that involvement. Plus, if you just highlight the things that are important to them, they're going to end up being more interested in trying to make those things closer to home.
Thank you. Mr. Stork?
I'm really proud to be sitting at this table with George and with Vincent. I'm really excited that there's 3 people running for the same position. I think that's a great, healthy sign of our political climate in Kerrville. We're still friends, I think, it's a friendly fight because we know we're going to be neighbors and we're still going to be friends after this election. And the more people that run each year, I'm meeting all kinds of great people who are considering running, and we have a lot of young people who are starting to run. These are things that should be rewarded, should be encouraged, and when you see Vincent and George, the younger 2 guys at the table, not me, pat them on the back and encourage their run, because it is a good thing when we have all this competition. That's what America was built on, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Mr. Vogel?
One more time, please.
From what we have heard, how would you break the cycle of lack of public interest in city events, elections, and activism among the citizens of Kerrville?
First, I'd have to listen to the people when they speak. do what they want. We're here to represent them. We're not here to run the city on our own opinions, and we don't know what's best for the people. We have to listen to the people. A good example is an ordinance for drones. They were going to pass an ordinance saying no drones in the parks. People stood up and said, wait a second, we don't agree with this. Luckily, the city council listened on that case. But when people speak up, we have to listen to them. If not, we're just going to turn them away. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will have each of you give your closing 1-minute statement, and we will start with Mr. Baruti.
I'm just hoping that I can get your support. I'd like to be on the city council and continue to serve the community in the way that I've been, which is basically hands-on. It's kind of how I do my life. It's kind of how I deal with the community. If you've seen me out there in the Little League fields, that's basically what you see me doing. I'm not asking other people to do anything that I'm not doing myself. I'm on the fields, I'm volunteering, I'm umpiring, I'm doing all that. It'd be the same sort of thing in the city council. It would be hopefully, if you allow me to, I would just continue to be hands-on and keep interacting with you all to determine what it is that we're trying to do as a city. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Stork.
2 years ago, I was campaigning for this position, and I just said, I know what to do, and I know how we should do all this. Well, my apologies. There's a lot more to this than I ever imagined. It's been a real humbling experience going from being so bold and brash to, oh, there's a whole lot to learn. There was a 5-inch binder just on the master water plan. You want to talk about exciting reading? That was exciting reading. And then there's the sewer, then there's the zoning, and then there's planning, and then there's all this other stuff. But it's been a real honor to serve Kerrville, and I'm really proud of the direction that this town is going. I want to continue to be a business-friendly town, have safe infrastructure, and to have a great quality of life. I think this town is heading in the right direction, and I want to continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Vogt.
Hope to gain your vote. If anything, win or lose, I hope my main goal is to inspire people, get people active, let people know that you can stand up, you can speak out, people will listen. That's what our community needs more of. And like I said, I hope I've gained your vote. It'd be an honor to serve y'all. I'd love to do this. This is my hometown. I love Kerrville, Texas. And thank y'all for everything, and thank you for coming, and be safe driving home tonight. God bless.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a big hand.